Welcome to the Deep Dive Library, your go-to podcast for real talks on entrepreneurship, finance, and personal growth.
No fluff, just bold insights to help you grow, build, and lead.
And today, we're doing a deep dive into something really crucial. How do I manage debt effectively?
Yeah, it's a big one. We're looking at questions like, what are the best ways to pay it off fast?
How do you build a budget that actually helps? Should you hit high-interest debt first, or maybe those smaller balances?
Right, and can you negotiate with creditors? Plus, what are the common mistakes, the pitfalls to watch out for?
We've gathered insights from financial guides, budgeting advice, different perspectives. Our mission is to unpack it all.
Make it clear, make it actionable.
Help you understand how to take control of your finances. So, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Okay, first things first. We need to talk about the impact of debt. Why is managing it so critical?
Well, the picture isn't always pretty. Too much borrowing, it can trap you really fast. It's that debt spiral people talk about.
Where you're just borrowing to cover old borrowing?
Exactly. And it gets harder and harder to climb out.
And it's not just feeling stuck, is it? What about, like, missing payments? Paying late?
Oh, that hits your credit score.
Yay.
Hard.
Right.
And a bad credit record that follows you. It can make getting a home loan tough.
Okay.
Some even say it can affect, professional life, maybe even finding certain jobs.
Wow. Okay, so it really spreads out. I remember seeing one perspective that framed it as the borrower is slave to the lender. That's pretty intense language.
It is intense, but it captures that feeling, that loss of control. Your future money is already spoken for by past decisions. Debt can seem like a tool, right, to get things now. But if you're not careful...
It cuts both ways.
Precisely. A two-edged sword that can cause real harm if mishandled.
Okay, so the impact is clear. It's serious. What's the first step then? The foundation for getting a handle on all this. Everyone seems to agree on this one.
Budgeting. Yep, there's really no way around it.
The B word.
Huh? Yeah. Maybe not the most fun topic ever, but honestly, it's absolutely necessary for kicking debt to the curb.
You have to make one and then actually stick to it.
You do. It boils down to a simple idea. You have to tell your money what to do.
Or it just leaves.
Pretty much. It finds ways to disappear if you're not watching it. So you need to know what's coming in versus what's going out. Track it.
That makes sense. And if you, say, save some money on gas one month, or find a little extra cash somewhere.
The advice is clear. Don't just spend it, throw it at the debt. That's how you make real progress faster.
Okay, but let's be real. Budgeting can feel like a chore. How do you make it easier?
Well, technology helps. There are financial apps out there. People mention things like Mint or... You need a budget that can track your spending automatically.
Take some of the manual work out of it.
Right. The key is making it a habit. Look at it every month. Did your income change? Expenses shift. Adjust the budget accordingly.
And what if you're married or have a partner?
Oh, that's crucial. You have to be on the same page. Teamwork is essential to win here.
Trying to do it separately just won't work.
Not effectively, no. You need to agree on the budget together. Think of it like running your household finances as a small business. You both need to understand the income and the expenses.
Got it. So budgeting gives you clarity, control. Once you have that, how do you actually start attacking the debt itself? What are the strategies?
Okay, first step. List out everything you owe. Don't hide from it.
Know the enemy.
Exactly. Get the total amount for each debt. And this is really important, the interest rate for each one. You need the full map.
Right. And once you have that list, what's the guiding principle?
Always try to pay more than the minimum payment if you possibly can.
Because the minimum just keeps you treading water.
Often, yeah. Paying extra hits the principal, the actual amount you borrowed, and that saves you a ton in interest over time. It's how you start really fighting back.
Okay, so list it. Pay more than the minimum. But what if you have like 5 different debts? Where do you focus your extra payments? I hear about different methods.
Yeah, there are 2 main schools of thought here. The first one is often called the debt avalanche.
Avalanche, okay.
With this one, you put your extra money towards the debt with the highest interest rate first, while paying minimums on everything else.
Why the highest interest?
Because mathematically, that saves you the most money on interest overall. High interest debt, like credit cards usually, costs you the most, so you knock that out first.
Makes sense. Save the most money. What's the other main strategy?
That's the debt snowball.
Okay, avalanche, snowball.
With the snowball, you list your debts from the smallest balance to the largest, regardless of the interest rate.
Smallest amount owed, not highest interest.
Right. You pay minimums on all debts except the very smallest one. You attack that smallest debt with every extra penny you have.
Okay, then what?
Once that smallest debt is gone, completely paid off, you take the entire payment you were making on it, the minimum plus all the extra, and you add it to the minimum payment of the next smallest debt.
Ah, so the payment amount snowballs and gets bigger as you knock out each debt.
Exactly. Your payment towards the next debt grows.
So why choose the snowball if the avalanche saves more money on interest?
Psychology. Pure and simple, it's about motivation.
Okay.
Paying off those smaller debts quickly gives you quick wins. You see progress fast, that feeling of accomplishment, that positive feedback. It can be incredibly powerful. It helps you stay motivated and stick with the plan long term, even if it costs a tiny bit more in interest compared to the avalanche.
That makes a lot of sense. Quick wins keep you in the game. Are there other tools people can use to speed things up?
Definitely. You constantly need to be looking at your budget and spending habits again. Can you find more money to throw at the debt? Maybe cut back somewhere else, even temporarily?
Scour the budget again.
Yeah. Also, some people consider a debt consolidation loan.
What's that involve?
Basically, you take out one new loan to pay off several existing debts. The idea is hopefully to get a single, lower interest rate overall than what you were paying across all the different debts.
Could simplify things and save money, potentially?
Potentially, yes. But you need to be careful with the terms and fees. Another thing is to try and reduce the interest rates on your existing debts. Sometimes you can call your creditors and negotiate.
Okay. And what if you've done all that? You've squeezed the budget, maybe consolidated, but you still feel stuck, like progress is just stalled.
That's when you might need to consider more radical steps. It shows real intensity, real focus.
Like what?
Like selling things. Things you own but don't truly need. Maybe it's an extra car, a boat, a collection, stuff just sitting in the garage. Selling those can free up a chunk of cash to make a significant payment and break the logjam.
That takes serious commitment, but it could provide that boost.
It really could. It shows you're dead serious about getting out of debt.
Now, shifting gears slightly. What if someone is already struggling, like finding it hard to make even the minimum payments right now?
That's a tough spot. But negotiation with creditors is often possible.
You can actually call them up.
Yes. If you genuinely cannot afford the current payments, you should contact them. Explain the situation. They might be willing to work out a plan for lower payments temporarily.
What do they need from you? Proof.
Typically, yes. You'll likely need to show them why you can't afford it. That usually means just providing a detailed household budget, showing your income, your essential living costs. It helps them see your reality.
Makes sense. But what's the catch? Does negotiating hurt you somehow?
It's really important to understand this. Yes, if you negotiate and agree to reduce payments, that will negatively impact your credit rating. It signals financial hardship. So while it can provide immediate relief and prevent things like collections, it does leave a mark on your credit history. It's a tool for when you're genuinely in trouble.
Good to know. Okay, we've covered the why, the how, the strategies, even what to do in a crisis. Let's talk about what not to do. What are the big mistakes? The landmines people step on.
Oh, there are definitely some common traps. Maybe the biggest, most dangerous one, adding more debt while you're trying to get out of debt.
Sounds counterintuitive, but I guess it happens.
All the time. Using a new loan or credit card for a quick fix feels like it solves an immediate problem, but it just digs the hole deeper. More payments, more interest. It's moving backwards.
Like trying to bail water out of a boat with a bucket that has a hole in it.
Exactly. Another trap is just relying too much on credit for everyday things, especially discretionary spending, wants, not needs.
So using cash or debit helps there.
Yeah, setting a limit for that kind of spending with cash or a debit card can help break that cycle. You physically see the money leaving.
What about mindset traps? Like believing debt is some kind of shortcut.
That's a big one. The idea that borrowing is a fast track to somewhere desirable. But really, there's no shortcut to any place genuinely worth going financially. It takes time and discipline.
Okay. What about co-signing? Helping out a friend or family member?
Co-signing is generally warned against very strongly.
Why is that?
When you co-sign, you're telling the bank, if this person doesn't pay, I will. You are 100% on the hook for the full amount.
And banks only ask for a co-signer if they're worried.
Exactly. They ask because they doubt the main borrower can repay. If the primary borrower defaults, it becomes your debt, and it can absolutely wreck relationships. Be prepared to pay it yourself if you co-sign.
That's a stark warning. Okay, what about those deals? 90 days, same as cash? They look tempting.
They are often described as a huge trap, a very, very effective trap.
How so?
Because most people don't pay off the full amount in those 90 days. And the contract usually states that if you miss that deadline by even a day or a dollar, all the interest that would have accrued from day one gets added back onto the balance. And those interest rates are often sky high, 24%, 30%, sometimes even higher.
Wow. So it's not really the same as cash unless you're incredibly disciplined.
It's a gamble, and the odds are stacked against the consumer.
Okay, let's talk cars. Car payments feel almost normal, right? Like everyone has one.
It's a common belief, but some perspectives challenge it hard. One called taking on car payments, one of the dumbest things people do to destroy their chances of building wealth. Dumbest things. Wow. Why?
Because it's usually a really large payment every month, sucking away income for an asset that's constantly losing value, depreciating. It's noted that many millionaires actually drive reliable, paid-for used cars, and leasing, often seen as even more expensive in the long run than buying, especially buying used.
That really flips the script on car buying.
Yeah.
What about this idea that you need debt to build credit? You hear that all the time.
Yeah, that's presented as a myth, heavily pushed by the lending industry itself.
So you don't need a credit card or loan to have a good financial life.
You need a credit history for certain things, like mortgages, but you don't have to go into debt and pay interest to build it. Things like paying rent or utility bills on time can sometimes be reported now, and honestly, cash buys things just fine. Better, even.
And debit cards. Are they risky?
Not really in terms of fraud. Debit cards issued by major networks like Visa or MasterCard typically offer the same zero liability protection against fraud or theft as credit cards do under their own regulations. You get the convenience without the debt temptation. It seems like a lot of these mistakes boil down to mindset. Or maybe denial.
Absolutely. Denial is huge.
Yeah.
Just refusing to face the reality of the situation, refusing to admit there's a problem.
Pretending it's okay when it's not.
Right. And the forces emphasize that sometimes radical change is needed. Facing the pain of change now is far better than waiting for the much worse pain of not changing. Things like foreclosure, lawsuits, constant stress.
You have to face it head on. What about shortcuts like lotteries or get-rich-quick schemes?
Avoid them like the plague. Believing in foolproof systems, gambling, falling for things that sound too good to be true, they're all pitfalls. Real wealth building comes from energy, saving consistently, being diligent over time. No magic bullets.
Okay. And bankruptcy. Is that an easy escape hatch if things get really bad?
Definitely not easy. It's described as a painful process. It devastates your credit score for many years.
And does it fix the root cause?
That's the key thing, no. Bankruptcy deals with the debts, but it doesn't change the habits or circumstances that led to the debt in the first place. It's like someone else losing weight for you. It doesn't teach you how to eat right and exercise.
That's a powerful analogy. Any specific bankruptcy mistakes?
One mentioned is relying on a divorce decree. If the decree says your ex-spouse is responsible for a joint debt, that's between you and your ex. It does not remove your name from the loan with the creditor. If your ex doesn't pay, they can still come after you.
Wow, okay.
Also, avoid those credit repair scams that tell you to dispute accurate negative information or try to get a new identity. That's fraud.
Got it. One more big area keeping up with the Joneses, peer pressure.
Huge. Trying to impress others by buying things you can't afford. It's called incredibly destructive. An addiction to approval shown through spending just demolishes wealth building.
That constant pressure to have more, newer, better.
Right, that more is better.
Yeah.
Consumer myth. It pushes you to buy stuff you don't need, and ironically, often leaves you feeling less content, not more. It requires a radical shift in thinking.
It really does. Is there one sort of foundational safety net people often miss early on? Something that protects them when life inevitably happens?
Yes. Not having an emergency fund, even a small one.
Why is that so critical at the start?
Because life does happen, right? Murphy's Law. Job loss, unexpected medical bill, car breaks down. Without some cash set aside specifically for those true emergencies, where do you turn?
Back to debt, credit cards, loans.
Exactly. You just dig yourself deeper. Having even a small starter emergency fund, say $1,000, is often highlighted as baby step one in some plans. It provides breathing room, peace of mind. It stops a small storm from turning into a hurricane.
So it acts like a buffer.
Precisely. A bigger fund, like 3-6 months of expenses, comes later. But that initial cushion is vital protection early in the debt payoff journey.
Okay, wow. We have covered a ton of ground. The negative side of debt, the absolute need for budgeting, different ways to pay it off, negotiation, and that long list of traps and mistakes. How does this all fit into the bigger financial journey?
Well, getting debt under control, especially consumer debt, is almost always framed as one of the essential early steps. It's foundational.
It's not the end goal, but a necessary starting point.
Exactly. It's about clearing the decks, removing that weight, that burden, so that your money and your energy can then be redirected toward the positive side, saving, investing, building wealth, achieving financial peace and freedom.
So you handle the debt first to unlock the future potential.
That's the idea. It's about moving from being controlled by money to being in control of it. It involves facing fears, learning about money, overcoming financial ignorance, and building financial intelligence and integrity. Successful getting out of debt builds incredible momentum for everything that comes next.
We've definitely covered a lot today, from understanding debt's real impact and why budgeting is non-negotiable,
to the nitty-gritty of payoff strategies like the avalanche and snowball, and importantly, those critical mistakes that can trip you up.
It is complex, no doubt, but like you said, the core ideas seem pretty clear. Know your money, have a plan, stay disciplined.
And watch out for those common pitfalls.
So for everyone listening, what does this mean for you? Maybe take a second right now to think about where you stand on your own debt journey.
Which points really resonated? Was there a strategy that clicked, or maybe a mistake you recognize you might be making?
It often starts with that honest look in the mirror, doesn't it? And then committing to making a change, even if it feels like a radical one.
Yeah, it requires that commitment.
Because managing debt, getting it out of your life, it's often just the first stage of a much bigger and hopefully much more positive financial transformation.
It's about creating freedom. Freedom to build the future you actually want.
And that freedom is definitely worth the effort.
Absolutely.
So, if you found value here today, but you haven't subscribed yet, seriously, why wait? Every single subscriber helps fuel this channel. It lets us keep delivering the real, practical, game-changing content that you need.
Your support makes a difference.
So please hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts or questions, and definitely subscribe, NOW. You don't want to miss out on the next deep dive that could change everything for you.